Can everybody hear me? Give me a thumbs up or something if you can hear me. Okay, or don't. Okay. Shall we get started then? So just a few ground rules to begin with. Obviously, I am Rewboss. I'm the owner of this channel, or as you can call me, Andrew, whichever you prefer, I don't mind. I will be speaking in English. You can ask questions in German if you want, but I will be answering them in English if that's okay. Oh, good. QA Library has said that you can hear and see me, which is excellent. I'm having trouble with the lighting. I've got it as good as I can manage. If I ever do this again, I'll try and get it better. Okay, so I've already had quite a few questions. I've had questions asked me in comments on previous YouTube videos, which isn't really how a live stream is supposed to work as far as I can tell. But let me just answer some of the ones that I've already had, and then I'll start with the comments that I can see scrolling up on my right here. So first of all, Martin Schultz, and I think Martin Schultz is here, asked me in a comment what my shoe size was. I'm not sure why that's so interesting, but yes, in German it's 45. That converts to about 10.5 in British sizes. I got an email with some questions. I'm not going to reveal the name of who it is on the email because it might be something you want to keep private, but an interesting question, which I'll kick off with, is what are my top 3 favorite YouTube channels? So I'll answer that one first. I would say, first of all, the Tim Traveller. If you haven't seen him, he does great travel videos, great favorite of mine. I think he has a wonderful sense of humor, and he really knows how to do travel videos. Jay Foreman, who delves into some quite interesting and serious topics, but in a very quirky way. And also nothing to do with travel, pitch meetings. If you haven't seen that, this is one by I can't remember if he's Ryan George or George Ryan. Anyway, he does pitch meetings where he imagines what it was like when a scriptwriter came to a producer to produce a film. They're very funny. It's a very funny satires on Hollywood movies. So I'm going to try to answer some questions that I've already had pop up. Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah. So the Dude Abides has asked me, what did you do as a career before this, and do you still do that? I think that was also one that I got actually from this email that I received. So most of the time that I've been in Germany, I actually worked basically in languages. So I did English tuition for Germans. I specialized in school students who were struggling at school. And I also translated as well. Now, I've been on YouTube since it was 2005, which is a very long time. And it's only recently that I've basically stopped doing pretty much everything else and now concentrating on YouTube and trying to make a living out of that. It was the pandemic that really kind of sort of dried up all my other work, and I was able to fall back on YouTube. I'm scrolling up here. Autocorrector says, since you come from the UK class system, how would you compare your life in Germany to your life in the UK? Have you leveled up by choosing a life as an expat? Not really. I mean, okay, so there is this class system in Britain, and it's still very relevant, but it's not something that I've ever really sort of measured myself by in particular. I mean, my background is kind of sort of lower to middle class. I mean, we were a family. We got by okay. Um, Basically, I continued getting by okay here in Germany as well. I don't feel there's been much of a change, to be honest. I had Annalena Reim asked me a couple of questions before the stream even got started, including how well known is my channel where I live. Quite well known. I think most people in this village seem to know who I am, or at least know that I do videos, and sometimes ask me to actually make videos for him. Are there places in Germany I would like to visit? Yeah, loads. I'm not going to go through a whole list of them right now. And have I ever been to East Frisia? No, not yet. Maybe in the future. It's an interesting place. And I don't drink tea, by the way, so I'm not really that interested in the East Frisian tea culture, not personally anyway. Okay. Member Berry says that I seem to be on mute just now. And thank you, Pantomas PG. That's very nice of you. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm getting conflicting information here as to whether I'm you can hear me or not. Obviously, you can. Yeah, because Annika Müller says Tim Traveller is also her favorite channel. Stephen Demonin asks, how difficult is it for you to go to Saxony and Pomerania? Oh, it's not too difficult. I mean, it's a complicated train journey because I'm starting in a small village. Germany is big-ish for a European country, but if you're comparing it to somewhere like the United States, because the distances are very small, I can get to Pomerania inside a day. I mean, I wouldn't have a day trip there. That wouldn't be possible, but I could leave here in the morning and be on the Baltic coast by dinner time, no problem. Let's see. Yes, Rick Caliolio asks what my hair care routine is, and what can I say? Hair care? Me? Ha! I don't need hair care. A Peaceful Rain wants to know where I got this sweater from. I don't know. I'll have to ask my wife. She bought it. Penta5 asks, how much German music do I listen to? I don't listen to a lot of music these days, actually. I mean, when I was younger, I used to listen to quite a lot of music. There was some German music in there as well. I mean, obviously, you couldn't miss people like Udo Lindenberg springs to mind. Coincidentally, I was at a concert last night. It was a small concert in a nearby village where they did a cappella versions of rock and pop music from vintage stuff and modern stuff as well. They even did Gangsta's Paradise, which was interesting. Okay. Andrea Caputo, as Italian, if I'm not much mistaken, asks, do I speak other languages besides English and German? Yes, theoretically, I can speak Russian, although I've forgotten most of it. And I can probably also still say a few sentences in French. Okay. Yes, White Ninja Studios asks what my opinion is on the city of Birmingham. I studied actually in Wolverhampton, which is very near to Birmingham. It's a city. I assume you mean Birmingham in England. It's a big city. It was a bit noisy and dirty as far as I from memory, but it was fine. I mean, there's not very much to say about it. Oh yeah, Silver Fox Wolfen asks, is the road open yet? So this is a reference to a recent video in which I complained about how the road out of the village is being rebuilt and is closed. And no, it's not open yet. We're hoping next week, but we're not holding our breaths. Bernard Harrison asks, would I consider bringing out your cats? What, to see you, what, here now in live? That wouldn't be a good idea. That could go terribly, terribly wrong. Sorry. Okay, so QA Library asks an interesting question. What is it like filming in public in Germany? Do you ever get told to stop or shouted at? So this is one of the problems in Germany, is that people tend to be very, very sensitive if you point a camera their way and will threaten to call the police and stuff like that. It has happened to me very occasionally, not very often, but sometimes people have actually come up to me and said, please don't film me. Please delete everything that you have with me in it. I don't want to be in your video. But usually nothing happens at all. Sometimes people are actually quite happy to be on video. It depends. Jonathan the Great asks, who inspired me? I would actually say recently the Tim Traveller. So a couple of years ago, it was while I was trying to work out what I was going to do with the Rewboss channel. I've been on YouTube for a very long time, and how I was going to get more viewers and all the rest of it, how I was going to actually make something of my channel. And it was watching the Tim channel the Tim Traveller in particular, and one Q&A video that he did where he was asked, how did you get into it? And he said that he was taking a sabbatical from work. He was going to travel a bit. He decided he was going to make some videos and he was going to put them on YouTube. If they gained traction and made money for him, then maybe he could extend his sabbatical. If not, then he would have some wonderful videos to remember a wonderful time of his life with. And kind of this light bulb moment came on in my head at that time where I realized that all this time I'd been trying to make videos for other people, but they weren't the kind of videos that I personally would have chosen to watch. They were what I thought most people on YouTube might want to watch, and I was holding back from being more personal about it. And what I realized was that if I wasn't making videos that I would want to watch, who else would want to watch them? So that was a huge moment for me, to be honest. So the Bedgebacher says salt and vinegar crisps or pork scratchings. Definitely salt and vinegar crisps. Okay, so which is okay, Niz asks, which is better, British humor or German humor? I would say I don't think it's fair to compare them. So I mean, I used to complain a lot about German humor and how unfunny it is. But as I've grown older, I've sort of grown to appreciate it more and exactly what it is. Basically, the thing is that humor is a cultural thing and it doesn't always travel well. German humor is not bad. It's just difficult for me to get into because I grew up with British humor, which is quite different. But I don't think you can say one is better than the other. Personally, I prefer British humor, but that's simply because that's where I grew up. That's what I'm used to. That's not a value judgment. That is a personal feeling, no more than that. So another question asking me, this is S. Pascal Anagia Sulistio. That's a lovely name. Asking me if I'm hoping to visit any small towns in North Rhine-Westphalia. I'm not going to reveal my plans in advance. I mean, I'll go anywhere I can find something interesting to talk about. Let me see. So there is actually a video coming up, hopefully before the end of this month. I filmed it in the summer, and I'm trying to remember if it was actually in North Rhine-Westphalia or not. But if it, I can't remember. I can't remember, but it's sort of anyway. There is a video coming up soon. But yeah, if I find something interesting, a reason to go to North Rhine-Westphalia, of course I will. But I do have some plans for next year. I'm not going to discuss them. Knowledge Voyage. Am I interested in Dutch, in the Dutch language? It's interesting. I mean, at the moment, I don't really have the time to start learning languages from scratch, but it is quite a fascinating language. And obviously, because I speak both English and German, I can read quite a lot of simple Dutch, as long as it doesn't get too complicated, obviously. The dude abides again. Hello. I wonder what your favorite movie is. Asks if I find some German accents difficult to understand. Yeah, I mean, there's a huge range of German accents and dialects. I would say it's about the same as the range of dialects you find in British English, for example. There are some dialects of British English that I struggle to understand. So yeah, sometimes I had a particularly embarrassing moment when I was asked to cover for an interpreter who dropped out at the last minute. The problem was that the job was in Switzerland. And as anybody knows, the Swiss dialect is so different from most German dialects that Germans sometimes even need subtitles. And there were some people, it was a high up business meeting, and some of the people there spoke very broad Swiss dialect and not a word of English. And I did absolutely terribly, as you can imagine. But there you are. Okay. DJKL Productions, do the inhabitants of your village know what you do? Yeah, I answered that question a little a bit previously, and yes, they do. It's one of the things that sort of made me famous. In fact, I mean, it is a very small village, and it is the kind of place where if you want the villagers to like you, they have to know exactly what you do. They have to be able to place you. And if you don't have a dog, you don't have a child, you don't sing or anything like that, it's very difficult for them. But I was able to, I started off filming a few festivals, obviously the Straw Bale Festival, for those who remember those videos. Unfortunately, since the pandemic, the Straw Bale Festival has ended now. It's no longer taking place. But it was filming that, putting it on YouTube. That's what finally got people to kind of sort of warm up to me. So yeah, they do know. So White Ninja Studios asks, what is your biggest grievance about the government in your country? So if by my country you mean the United Kingdom, What can I say about that government? I mean, there have been so many in the past few years. The current government is very new and has unfortunately started on a very bad foot. After the chaos of the Conservative Party years, the Labour Party basically saying, "Oh, we're going to do everything differently. We're going to be honest and transparent with you." And the first thing we discovered, of course, was that some high-ranking members of the Labour Party have been getting an awful lot of interesting kickbacks that were not strictly illegal, but probably shouldn't have happened. If we're talking about my country as being Germany, I think the biggest disappointment at the moment is that the three coalition partners are spending their time just arguing all the time. It's getting even worse, to the point that newspapers are now speculating as to whether the coalition is even going to last until the next election, which is next year. So that's how bad things have got, and it's just put everything. It's been a real problem. So trying to scroll on. Autocorrector asks, do you own the Benny Hill box set? No, is the answer to that question. I never really enjoyed Benny Hill, to be honest. I do have the Yes Minister and the Yes Prime Minister box sets, if that means anything to anybody. Okay, the Bedgebacher asks, are 160,000 subscribers enough to live off of? Not from advertising revenue alone, not really. But I have one or two other revenue streams, and I'm working on optimizing them and opening up some more. But basically, no, you can't expect to get to 160,000 subscribers and never have to work again in your life or anything like that. It's really peanuts. Okay, I've got somebody with an Icelandic name, if I'm not much. Javnada Flokurin's Lost Gold Stapler. I know I haven't got that right. That's the best I can do. Do you think that some German businesses, shops and bars, disliking accepting debit and credit cards is something that should still be happening in the middle of the third decade of the 21st century? There are a lot of other countries that still use cash quite a lot. Obviously, I grew up with cash. I'm used to it. I like handling it. Should this be happening now? I don't think there's a should or shouldn't be about it. I mean, I think that cash versus cashless, there are advantages and disadvantages of both. I think at the moment, most German businesses are just calculating that the disadvantages of cashless outweigh the advantages, but more and more places are accepting cashless now. And I actually have far less problem paying by card now than I used to. It's not quite as bad as a lot of people think. Yeah, Deutsche Michael, is this your first live stream? Of course it is. How couldn't you tell? Okay, autocorrector, DM or Rossmann. So these are two competing, what Germans call drugstores, and Rossmann, because it's the closest, it's the one nearest here. Penta5 asks what my favorite cities or regions are in Baden-Württemberg. No contest, it's Herrenberg, which I have a video about on my channel. It's a place I know very well, and I do enjoy it. Okay. If I don't answer everybody's questions, please bear with me. There's a lot here already in the chat. It's difficult to keep. I know there is, by the way, a Q&A function on this thing, but I've only just started using it. This is my first live stream, and I'm just doing this as an experiment to see if I can do it. Okay, where was it? Do I understand the local dialect? This is Deutsche Michel again. Hessisch or Fränkisch. I mean, that's a sore point, by the way. The dialect is actually technically basically the same dialect as in southern Hesse, so the Frankfurt area, but the locals will never admit it. And yes, I mean, I've been here for long enough now that I can understand it. I can't speak it, but I can understand it. Annika Müller asks, are you still the new one in your village after all those years? No, I don't get that feeling. I mean, I can't say how long it took me to become accepted, but I'm quite, as I say, I'm quite well known now. My wife is also quite well known on her own merit, no, it's fine. I definitely feel like I've arrived and I'm accepted here. Silver Fox Wolfen asks, wondering what computer you use, what software and video things you use. I actually have that on my website. I have a website at rewboss.com. It's not very good, but I have there a list of the equipment that I'm currently using. Computer is just a basic PC. I will probably be getting a new one next year because this one is quite old and it's really difficult editing videos on it. It works, but it's just a bit tricky. Software is Adobe Premiere Pro. Video things, I use a great big camcorder. I also have a GoPro. So there's somebody here with, I think that's Japanese characters. Well, T something, F something. Oh, I see, TF, signs of TF. What's an underrated German souvenir that tourists should get? I have absolutely no idea. I could list a lot of overrated tourist souvenirs, Biersteins and things like that, but underrated souvenirs, that is something I would have to think about. I'm struggling with this one. I mean, maybe I'll get back to you if I have a moment of inspiration. Okay. Vikin Kodjayan asks, am I following the United States elections? Yes, with trepidation, but I won't go into that now. It's sort of a divisive political topic and not really relevant to Germany. Couldn't you speak High German in Switzerland? It wasn't the problem. I mean, I could speak High German in Switzerland, so the standard German dialect. The problem was that some of the people that I was trying to translate couldn't. They were all speaking very broad Swiss dialect. Especially the older members, and in fact, I had the embarrassing moment of some of the younger employees there translating into German for me so I could translate into English. It was not a moment that I think of very fondly. Jonathan the Great, have you been compared to Kurzgesagt's Steve Taylor? Yes, just now. You did it. Thank you. Jim Bob Jones asks, do you like German beer? If so, what is your favorite? I am not a beer drinker. I've never liked beer. I put it down to the fact that my father used to brew his own beer, and he did so very, very badly. I mean, we could smell it from the other side of the room, and it didn't smell like beer. So I think that's probably put me off beer for life. I do enjoy wine, and my favorite German wine is a Dornfelder, a cask matured Dornfelder from Volkach. You can always bribe me with that. Okay. Abgekippt asked why British people come to Germany. I can't speak for all of them. For me, it was simply the fact. Okay, so I studied German and Russian at university. I had already spent some time in Germany. Now, this was in 1992. That's how old I was. And that's how old I am now, rather. I hadn't spent as much time in Russia as I had in Germany. So my plan was that I would go to Russia for 6 months and improve my Russian and then come back to the UK. My parents vetoed that idea. It is the only time I can ever remember my parents telling me I was not to do something. Russia at the time was it wasn't as bad as it now is, but there were problems in Russia. It was a little bit unstable, and particularly with high levels of things like cholera and goodness knows what else. So I said, okay, I'll compromise. I'll go halfway. I'll go to Berlin, which I did, intending to stay for about 6 months, and just ended up staying forever. So what else? Let's see. Tia, I'm probably skipping a lot here. So the Dude Abides asks, what is my favorite German food? I'm going to say Leberkäse, proper Leberkäse. And do I miss getting fresh British items like pasties? Yeah, that's kind of obviously all the time. I couldn't get pasties before Brexit, but I can make pasties. So, I have at least that. Tia Pina asks, does your village have a pub? Yes, a very good one. We often eat there. It's, delicious food, generous portions, at very reasonable prices, made with fresh, locally sourced produce, as you would expect from a country pub. It's very nice. Okay. Yes. Hirnspatz asks, do I still collect postcards? Will you read them read them out in the future again? Yes, I'm still collecting postcards. What I haven't done for a very long time, and I really need to get down and do it, but with the winter now here, I shall have time to do it, is to sort through all the dozens and dozens, I mean, there's probably about 100 now that I've collected, sort through them all, put them on the map. I have on my website a map of where all my postcards come from, and put them up on the pinboard that you can't see because it's now behind you. And I hope you're all enjoying this view, by the way, which is not the view you normally get, because you're now looking at my room from the other direction, and please ignore the mess behind me. IC asks, is it true that Germany still uses post for everything, as in snail mail? Not literally everything, but a surprising amount. And sometimes there are some sort of digital things. My wife recently had to get an internet account for, I think it was an insurance company or something like that. And getting an account involved waiting for pins and codes to come through the mail in physical form. So it's a little bit bizarre, but yes. T-Win Okay, that's Vietnamese, and I know how you're supposed to pronounce it. I just can't actually pronounce it. Which German dialects are your favorites? Which do you more often struggle to understand? My favorites? That's a difficult one. I never really ranked them in terms of how I liked them. I have a soft spot for the Swabian dialect. Which do I most often struggle to understand? I mean, I would say those in the very south are very strong, sort of Upper Bavarian, Alsatian, Alemannic. I probably struggle with Alsatian as well. That's a bit different. So, goodness me. Okay, I'm going to have to skip a lot. And T-car. No, wait. Oh, yes. Okay, so this name is in use, has very generous. Thank you for that. Sorry, I didn't get back to you earlier. That is Tika. I'm very confused here at the moment, but thank you for that. And the question, Krapfen, Berliner, Kreppel or Pfannkuchen. Well, I mean, Berliner normally, but of course, when I was in Berlin, it was Pfannkuchen. Luke McDonald asks, having lived in both countries, what would you say Germany does better and what would you say the UK does better? I actually have two videos that you can probably look up on my channel. One about things that I think Germany does better, one that I think that things that I think Britain does better. So I think Britain, for example, does pub culture better. Germany, I can't remember what I said about Germany, things that Germany did better. I can't remember, but those videos are up there. You should be able to find them, actually. Autocorrector asks, how can we send you postcards? On most of my long form videos, there's an address at the end. It's a German PO box address. You can send postcards to there. So Stan is just turning in. I don't know if you're still here, Stan, but have you faced any discrimination as a foreigner in Germany? Not as such. So, okay, so I do sometimes look to some people as if I come from the Middle East or the Mediterranean or somewhere like that. And I have occasionally had people saying some strange things to me because of that. But otherwise, I mean, hey, I'm a white European male. I don't get that much. I don't get that many problems at all. So Young Buffoon asks, what do I think of Stuttgart? It's not an easy city to love. I mean, it's not Stuttgart's fault that it was bombed very heavily in the Second World War and it was rebuilt in what was then a modern style. It doesn't look particularly attractive. It's also squeezed into a tiny valley. So it has a lot of problems with pollution and, I mean, it could probably do better. I mean, it's got a very bad image and it's a bit of a shame. Autocorrector, can you name all the Mainzelmännchen? 9. No, I can't. So, yeah, planes are cool. How long is this live stream? I said at most an hour. And it's going really well, I think. I hope you think so too. Okay. Sam Karacha says, I have a question. There are a few British English German channels comparing the two states and languages, one of the latest being Liam Carpenter. Thank you for that, but you didn't ask me a question. So yes, I'm aware of them, and they do some very good work. And I appreciate Liam Carpenter's eye for German culture and all the strange quirks that he's noticed. Oh, yes, Dan, is that Dan AI or Dan Al? Did you ever feel like you have to hide your non-German background? No. Oh, Sam Karachi, I do apologize. You did ask a question. Are you guys somehow connected through the content and similar stories? Maybe. Well, we haven't collaborated on anything. I haven't been in touch at all with Liam Carpenter. We haven't communicated or anything like that. Oh yeah, Nicholas Monta, when did you start conversing with your wife in German? Right from the beginning. I didn't meet her until after I'd been in Germany for about 10 years. I lived in Berlin for about 10 years and then met her and moved down here. That's how it happened. Robert Willoughby asks, would you do chats with local politicians or not so local? Would I do chats with them? I'm not particularly interested in chatting with politicians. I'm not sure what we would talk about. So Jade asks, how was your day? Well, I woke up a bit tired because I was at that concert last night. Other than that, it's been okay. It's been a bit busy though. I didn't get as much work done yesterday as I'd hoped, so I was catching up today. So once Siberisky, pardon me. I assume that's Polish. Do you have a wife? Yes, I've been talking about her quite a bit. Alki asks, do Germans or German speakers unsolicitedly switch to English after noticing that you're not native in German? No. I mean, some people do notice, but my German is good enough now that they don't bother switching. The Budgebacher asks me one of these questions: 8 out of 10 Katzler's Countdown or QI? QI. Josh asks, how young are you? I am 54 next year. There you go. Yeah, Orgaitness 900 asks, what band did you see? So this was a local band. And actually, the main reason I was there was because 3 of the members are relatives of my wife. And they're not well known. Well, they're not known at all outside the region. They just do it for fun. It's a cappella. And it was a good time. And there were also a couple of other local musicians there. They took turns on stage. So so one group would sing a few songs and then go away. Then these other guys would come back and do some songs, and so on. And they was well, and they were pretty good. DJ KL Productions asks, if you travel to the UK, do you use train or plane? I haven't been back for a while, and I normally go by plane, but I am wondering if train might be a viable option. I mean, it's possible. It just means taking the train all the way to Paris, probably, or Cologne. I think the Eurostar goes to Cologne. It's possible. I'm considering it. Konstantin Chupin asks, what were your feelings after moving from Berlin to a small village? Did you miss the big city? I grew up in a small market town, so I'm used to living in a rural area. I acclimatized quite quickly. Sometimes I do miss aspects of living in the big city, but I really enjoy my life here, so I'm fine. I'm quite happy. So Adrian asks, favorite stop on the Karlgrundbahn? That's the nearest railway line to here. That's the train that brings me home. My favorite stop is whichever stop I'm supposed to be getting out of. Well, I mean, I like the Karlgrundbahn, but it's nice to get to the end of a journey. Doombastic, I was actually born in the year 1970. So actually, wait a minute, that makes me 54 now. I'm 55 next year. Okay, I'm sorry about that, folks. That is what happens when you get to my age. Annalena Reim, is there a video about Flensburg? Nope, not well, not one of mine. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there must be many on YouTube, but not one of mine. Okay. Tarania says, a random question. Are you going to make a second channel called Andom? Oh, I see. Yes, because it's my name with the Rewboss taken out. Okay, yeah. I was thinking it's random with the R taken off. No, that's an interesting idea. I probably won't be doing a second channel, but that's a good idea. I like the way that you think of it. I like the way you think. So Stan asks, would I move back to Berlin or any other big German city? Not at the moment. I'm fine. I have my life here. I have my family here. I have most of my friends here, except the one who's gone back to Australia. Hello, Paul. Silver Foxwolf, never done the Wuppertal monorail. No, everybody seems to do that. Okay. Jonathan the Great asks, do you do stand-up? Funny thing, but in about the last year that I was in Berlin, somebody persuaded me to do a stand-up routine at an English language comedy club. Yeah, so I did that for a couple of months. I wasn't the best, but also I will say with great pride, I was not the worst. Okay. So S. Pascal Anagia Sulistio again. Will you be hopeful Deutsche Bahn will be getting better soon after they conducted a study in Japan recently in their Instagram? I didn't see that about them conducting a study in Japan. But of course, yeah, I mean, so Deutsche Bahn is not the worst railway company in the world. And I should know, I grew up in Britain in the 1980s. I know how bad things can get. It's also obviously not the best, and standards have been declining for various reasons. But the government has made a start on trying to sort out the problems. Now, whether the government will have any success or not, I can't say. And particularly if, as seems likely, after the next election, we have a different government that might not be so friendly towards the railways, we shall see. But I am at the moment cautiously optimistic that things are moving in roughly the right direction. Andrew G asks, how do you deal with German coldness? I think it's the realization that it's not particularly cold. I don't feel that Germans are cold. It's difficult to make small talk with Germans, but I don't think that's coldness. I think they just don't like unnecessary fuss. They like to be, I won't say efficient, but there's no point in saying things that you don't actually mean, and that can come across as coldness. But I don't feel that they really are cold. Oh, Marcus Dida, why did it feel like the 1933 playlist was not finished? Because it wasn't finished, unfortunately. So I did a series where I basically did some news reports as if it was the year 1933. So I was doing them in 2023. And so on the day that something happened in 1933, I released a spoof sort of news report about that thing, 1933 being, of course, the year that the Nazis rose to power. And I was going to, or had planned to carry that through to November. Problem was, it was an awful lot of work. And I've mentioned this before in some videos, that that some things happened in my private life that, I mean, they're nothing for anybody to worry about, but they were things that I needed to concentrate on. And it's also one reason why last year I didn't do as much traveling as I was hoping to do, as well as the bad weather. But yes, because that series was so much work, it was one of the first things that unfortunately fell by the wayside when I had more important things to deal with. So sorry about that, but you're absolutely right. It really, it wasn't unfinished. Okay. Annika Müller asks, do a lot of people ask you about cat content? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to turn my channel into a cat channel. I like to, you know, I sometimes put my cats in community posts and things like that. Yeah, sometimes people would like to see more cat, but unfortunately the cats don't agree. Yes, Lofrad or Leofrad, however you pronounce it, asks, have you ever dabbled in Old English or Anglo-Saxon, which I'm guessing is kind of a hobby for you, looking at your name. And I haven't dabbled in it. No, I'm kind of sort of, you know, interested in all things linguistic. And you know, it's interesting to look at how English has developed and changed over the centuries. But yes, the first book. So Grachtnak asks, what is the first book in the upper shelf to your left from our perspective? So to my right, the first book. Hold on. Oh. Okay, now this is interesting. This is actually very interesting. So let me try to angle it so you can see it. This is a libretto for a musical that was put on some years, 2012, August 2012. It was a local thing in a town called Seligenstadt. And what this Lustical was, it was a musical that was based on a real life historical event. So they had in that place, they had a professional composer, they had a professional script writer, they got hold of a professional director and one or two professional actors. All the other actors were locals. It was a full-blown musical on stage and everything. They did 3 performances, and I was commissioned to film it. Which I did, and I made a DVD because DVDs were still a thing in those days, which were then yeah, that was one of my greatest successes. Yanka VV asks, what do you think about Brexit? I think it was a stupid idea. But I have German citizenship, so that's fine. DJKL Actions asks, do you think the English are more consistent with grammar rules and daily speech or Germans? Oh, the English language is... well, I mean, I think that both languages are as consistent as each other. They're just slightly different. They're just different, but they are internally consistent to a great degree. Danielle asks, what's the difference between the road quality of Germany and Britain? Well, I don't drive at all, and I definitely don't drive in Britain. It's very difficult for me to compare. From what I've seen, I think German roads, if the ones that are not under construction, are probably better kept. I don't know. As far from what I can tell, I think British roads have more potholes. So we're now coming up to the last 5 minutes or so. There's definitely no way I'm going to answer everybody's questions, but I hope I've answered as many as I reasonably can. Dumbastic asks, do you have both citizenships? Yes, I'm a dual citizen, German and British. Salim asks, do you dream in English or in German? Both. Where's okay. Yeah, QA Library asks, can you explain Lüften for non-German viewers, as is a joke against Germans? I don't think it's a joke. I mean, Lüften is basically just throwing open the windows for a few minutes to let fresh air into the house. That's all it is. You can do that anywhere, I think, to be honest. I don't know that it's necessarily only a German thing. Okay. So I think, the Batchbacher asks, you're going to do this again. It's great fun. I mean, yeah, sure. Well, I say, yeah, sure, it's great fun. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. So one of the problems of doing a live feed is you've got to think of something to say that you can talk about live. Now, I'm not really very good at extemporizing. I can do more just general Q&A chats like this one, and that will undoubtedly be fun, but they would have to be quite widely spaced. I can't do one every month. That would very quickly get boring, especially because people would be asking the same questions again and again. Yeah, Mertonos asks, do you know about a YouTuber whose channel was called German Girl in America? However, she had to change the name of her channel because of a letter. It's Feli from Germany, she now calls herself. Her channel was not called German Girl in America. I'm trying to remember what it was called. But yeah, I think there was somebody else had registered that name as a trademark or something. So she couldn't continue to use it. So she had to change her name. But that happens from time to time. Jonathan the Great wants me to talk about Barbia. But yeah, that's the first time I've ever tried to pronounce it. My opinion on it, it's a tongue twister. It's funny. Okay, if you're talking about that, the sort of the song and the dance meme that came out and went all over TikTok and everything, it was hilarious. Yeah, it was great fun. Okay, so the time is now up, I'm afraid. But if I can just finish by thanking you all very much. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. I am amazed to have seen so many of you here today, and I'm glad you could make it. Thank you for all of your questions. Thank you for your support for my channel generally. And okay, so this is the point at which I sign off with something very witty and very clever. The problem is right now I can't think of anything at all. So I will just say thank you for the chance to talk to you, and goodbye. Have a great day.